Welcome to Cut Through the Noise with Dave Toronto, bringing you the truth behind the headlines in business and current events. Let's go.
All right, it's Tuesday morning. It's July 20th, and today's topic is an interesting one to me. It's actually, we're going to entitle this Truth Cuts Through Fear. And my guest today is Hema Vyas, and Hema is an author, a speaker, a psychologist, and I want to say it's an omnipreneurial psychologist, if I have that right. She's also a life and leadership mentor. So Hema, coming to me from the UK, thank you for being with me today.
Wonderful to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So you had emailed me this idea for the topic, and it really interested me, this whole concept of truth cutting through fear. And we will get into all of that. But before we do, what are the types of things your clients come to you for support? Like what are some of those things they come to you and ask for help with?
Well, this is where I'm going to begin, right, by being really honest and being truthful. So it doesn't really matter what they come to me for, because at the end of the day, the way that I work is that I'm always just really looking to cut through to the truth. And so they might say they've got a problem with a phobia around dogs. They might say that they've got issues at work. They might say they've got issues at home. They might say, how can I be a better leader? They might sort of come with all number of things, literally anything that, any issues we may experience in the world. And everything is about what I read from the energy of what they're saying. So I take a very holistic approach. So it's not just about the problem they're experiencing. It's not just about the environment in which they experience a problem. Any time that there's an imbalance in life, any time that something is out of balance, it will impact the rest. So sometimes we have to ask the right questions in order to get to the answers. And so I ask all the questions that lead to a bigger picture and that holistic kind of experience of what's really going on for this person and how can I best help evolve them, not just to overcome this issue, not just to overcome a problem, not just to deal with that, but to really, really help them thrive, to become better human beings, to become better at their relationships, better at work, but also better for the planet.
Good stuff. Are they ready for you when they hire you? Do they know what they're going to encounter?
No, I would love it, because often that, things that have been said to me is, wow, you look so soft and gentle and you speak so softly and gently, and boy, do you know how to take the rug from under us, Yes. So I've had all sorts of things. I never knew that about myself, but over the years, as people have got to know me, they've given me honest feedback, and they were like, that first meeting with you, wow, you just cut to the chase, and it was really confronting, but it was brilliant because actually it just resonated.
Yeah, well, I relate to you. And when you sent me that email through the site on Truth Cuts Through Fear, obviously the name of this show is Cut Through the Noise. Yes. And they kind of mirror, I think the intentions mirror each other. The idea of let's just get down to what's really going on. And that's really kind of what I do for my clients as well, is try to help them get to what's actually causing this thought, or what's the root cause of this problem or this idea. I struggle though, even from my seat, because just because I think, like this is the truth doesn't mean it really is. So can we take a few minutes and define what these two concepts are, truth and fear, and then how you work through them with people?
Yeah, I think that's why we resonated so well, because I think you do very similar work, and we might call it different things. We might, semantics really, but I think when we had the chat, we sort of really, really aligned with how we see the world. So I think fear is really anything that is not truthful for me. So basically anything that throws us out of equilibrium, anything that throws us out of balance, throws the harmony that's inherent within all of us. And I think when you really read the energy, it's not about what's true for you, what's true for me. Ultimately, it's about what's true in that moment for that person and what they need to hear in order to evolve beyond whatever is causing them issue, whatever is causing that imbalance, whatever is causing that sense of fear.
Yeah.
Because for me, fear is simply something not sitting right with your heart, mind, and body. Something saying there's something that's not resonating as a good space to be.
Right, right. And I was watching another, I don't remember the name of the person, but I've watched a number of videos and I cannot remember his name, and I apologize for that. And he talks about the concept of fear and where it comes from. And a lot of it is just imagination. And, your imagination of the past and your imagination of the future. And, when we're talking about the truth, isn't the truth just what's here right now? You know what I mean? Right on the video.
Absolutely. Because I think that's fear is based in, when we're trying to project something from the past onto our current experiences, or we're trying to project something from the past into the future, which is even worse, right? Because it hasn't even happened. But of course, the mind has the ability to do that. It has the ability to fill in the gaps. And so if you think, well, once upon a time, I got burnt doing that, I'm now going to do the same thing. Of course, the mind will say, oh, but, let's fast forward to what's going to happen. You're going to get burnt. And so it creates this fear. Whereas the truth is that circumstances change, context changes all the time. And I think we need to tap into context of a situation, and I think that's so important.
Why are we so at the mercy of the past and future as people? Why is that? Why do we not spend more time on what's in front of us? What causes that to happen?
I would say it's trauma that we built up over the years, not just our own, but also cultural trauma, ancestral trauma, what we've experienced through our parents vicariously. So anything that's held in the body as an energetic imbalance or a frequency that doesn't sit well, I think we kind of hold on to it. And because we're holding on to it, the mind goes back there. The heart acts like a magnet. It brings back experiences that we need to go to in order to resolve whatever was not truthful. That's what I really genuinely think. So the reason why we're so stuck on the past or the future is because we want to put it right, but we want to put it right by doing the same thing again and again and again. Instead of going, if we are faced with certain things again, we now have an opportunity in this moment to do something different. But of course, we are built on habit. We live our lives through habit, and a lot of habitual thinking and a lot of habitual patterning makes us just go back to the past and keeps on trying to create a new kind of future. But if we don't change in the current moment, in this present moment, then we're going to repeat the same patterns. And the more we repeat certain patterns, the more deeply they become embedded as a truth, but they're not truthful.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody recently who told me that the human brain is inherently lazy. Is that kind of tying into what you're saying?
Absolutely. And I think as human beings, we become inherently lazy as we get older. We think we know it all. We sort of walk around going, oh, yeah, I don't need to read that. I know that. I don't need to look at that. I know, it's sort of, I think we have to keep on learning, growing, evolving. The minute we think we know something is when life will come and bite us.
Right.
When we think, well, we've got this. I know this job really well. And then suddenly something happens because life is always moving. The earth is always revolving, and so we're always evolving as well. And I think that we need to recognize that no two moments are the same.
What do you think about the way, I heard another person talk about this too, the way in which we traditionally teach our kids or anybody, when you think about it, a lot of the teachings are about what happened or what took place. And this little clip I was watching was talking about how little is taught about how to deal with what's actually in front of us. And really, that's all we have is what's in front of us. Why is it that we're not focused more educationally on how to teach people to deal with that? It feels like a lot of our teaching is on how to react to something versus how to respond in the moment. Is there a reason for that, or is that just a lazy way of educating? How would you characterize that?
Say that the reason why we teach children is that we think we have to teach them what we have learned and experienced. But I think we need to also bring into that critical thinking.
Yeah.
And that's often what's not there. If I look at exam papers, I've got a 15-year-old niece going through exams, and when I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, this is just a memory test. It's really a test in how well you can remember certain things. And I think it's the application that's sort of missing. One of the main reasons that I think that we do that is because I think we see time as being linear, and it's not. And, when you look at sort of quantum physics and we understand the nature of reality as it really is, as opposed to what we used to believe, then we realize that, this idea that everything is linear, that everything has steps and sequences, and therefore the past must equal the present, and therefore that will lead to the future, is such erroneous thinking. And so I think we need to teach children to stop the habitual thinking through meditation, through things like that. Because when you teach them to stop with the idea that once they've mastered something, they know the answer, they stop looking outside of the box and looking for things that are beyond that. And I think that's dangerous. And I think the reason why we do it is because, again, it's the way the mind is set up. Once it thinks it knows something, it won't look at it again. It just keeps repeating those assumptions. And meditation is a great way of getting out of those assumptions and actually going, oh, what is the truth here? And really opening our hearts and our minds to what could be true as opposed to what we've been led to believe is true.
Are we progressing as people toward that as time goes on, or would you say we're regressing?
I love that word, regressing. I love it, yeah. So I would say both. I would say there are a number of people who are really evolving and moving towards, thinking outside the box, really thinking for themselves, not letting their past really impact them in a negative way, learning from it. Of course, it's great to learn from others who've been there before, great to learn from, those people who've experienced life, but doesn't mean it's necessarily right for us in the moment. Mm-hmm. So there are that many people who are really wanting to evolve and really wanting to see the world through different perspectives. But I think there are also that many people who are very deeply embedded and very deeply entrenched. I think in business that happens a lot. I'm talking, old corporate style business. There's a lot of people who are very, very stuck in old-fashioned thinking. And I think that they're going to find that it's not going to serve them. They're not going to have sustainable businesses, because the world is changing, whether they like it or not.
Do you find that as you take on a new client that they understand what it is that you're going to do with them or work through with them, or are they resistant to it because no, this is the way it is? Which camp do they fall in? Open, or it takes them a long time to get what you're talking about?
I would say open, mainly open. I think there are that many people who are resistant, but I think they just don't gravitate towards me. I think there's a truth in that you gravitate towards people you're ready for, whether you like it or not. The first time they may not always like it, but I think it resonates as a truth for them, because I'm quite upfront about, where I see them being, where I think there are certain blocks, things to work through, where they need to work on themselves to get to where they want to be, and what's possible. And I think when you highlight what's possible, people are always a little bit more open than when you just highlight that we've got work to do. People don't like the idea of having a lot of work to do. So most people want to go, oh, so what do you think? A couple of sessions? And I sort of laugh and I say, well, let's just see. Let's have the first couple of sessions, and then and by then, hopefully, I would say generally they're kind of hooked. And it's not because I want them to have untold sessions or anything. It's because, to really grow, there are no shortcuts.
I always get hung up on this whole concept today of personal branding and what I almost feel like we are so overboard with personal branding, and every PR company you talk to is all about your personal brand, about what we're going to tell people we are. But it really, at the end, I kind of just think we are what everyone thinks we are, not what we say we are. So, so how often are we projecting something that just isn't accurate? And we just, when you think about it, when you take on any client or you meet anybody in the world, they want to show you what they want to show you. How painful is it for them to actually look at something or face something that they don't want to talk about? I don't want to admit this side of me, even though it might be painfully obvious to you. How hard is it to get people to do that?
Oh, it's really hard. It's really hard. And that's why, PR companies, marketing, advertising, branding, it works to an extent because people want to buy the dream. Yeah. But the truth is that eventually you realize that it doesn't go anywhere. And so, I tend to work with people who are really ready for something more, because they can't find me without that. Because I'm not a regular psychologist, if they want regular work and just want regular, they're going to go to somebody else. When by the time they come to me, they're kind of already at a place where they've seen other people, they've tried other things, they've brought into the dream, but then I tell them the truth. You can say what you want, you can believe what you want. Somebody can tell you 3 sessions and I'll sort that out for you. But the truth is still the truth, and it's not going to change. And so, I think it's because I have real confidence in myself, not because of me. I have confidence because of what I've seen happen to the people I've worked with who have been willing to really, really look at themselves, face themselves. They always come out of it stronger and better.
Right.
Always. Right? The ones who don't, the ones who come back a couple of years later going, oh my God, I still need your help again. The ones who weren't willing to do it, who stopped midway going, oh no, this is too much. And then off they go. Yeah. Pretty much they come back, pretty much they come back to the same problem. If not to me, they come back to the same issues.
Right. Well, and which is why 2 sessions is a ridiculous idea, right? I mean, I actually had an example, worked with a customer last year for a few months each, and even a few months is not a long time.
It's not.
It's really not. But these 2 particular individuals made nice progress in the 3-month period. Uh-huh. But to me, in the back of my mind, they made progress on that issue. But I was not at all confident that they could just apply it to every issue. It became the uniqueness of that one. And I just recently got a call, and it's a similar issue, almost right back to square one. And the way I explained it to them, it's as if they both lost 100 pounds and then gained back 110 pounds. You don't just lose the weight and go back to whatever you were doing. And it's the same thing with this thinking. I would think that you have to teach people a heightened level of self-awareness. I would think it starts there and facing what's in front of them, and then having the skill to always go back to that as the baseline. Is that how it works? We always have to go back and look at me in this situation and not have the desire to point toward you or that or this.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely, because this is where personal development is so essential in any area of your life. Dave, because if we're not really applying that sense of, how am I going to grow in myself, then if you deal with a problem and you find the solution to a problem, that's all you're doing. Whereas when you grow and evolve in that moment, then you grow beyond that problem. And so that problem doesn't revisit you again. And I think that's so essential. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. Don't solve a problem for the sake of solving a problem. Heal something in yourself, because you will not only solve the problem, but you will also, not attract those problems again, which, makes the world a better place when we start really, really dealing with stuff.
Do you think if we've, I wonder at some level if we are way too focused on ourselves, though, like sometimes, ever since a little kid, you go out in the yard or in the backyard or whatever, and you know how ants, when they get together, they make those little mounds of sand, and that becomes their little thing.
Yes.
When I was a little kid, I'd watch the ants, and then I'd watch them work so hard to build those things up, and then I would just go over with my sneaker and wipe the whole thing out. And I would think about, like, oh, are they pissed off at me, these little things? And then they'd go back and do it again. Yeah, their whole existence is just doing this thing, and it's so important to them. And then I think that's kind of how we are. We build our neighborhoods and our buildings and our whatever the heck we're doing, and it's like we're just bigger ants with a little more intellect. But in the end, does any of it, like, what does it all mean? Like, what are we really doing here? And so I just think at some level, all we are is larger, more sophisticated ants that'll be gone. We'll be gone, and most of us won't be remembered, and the world will keep going, along this whole continuum. So how much time are we wasting thinking about stuff that doesn't matter, and rather than let's just kind of live in this, like, make right now matter, for everybody, not just ourselves. Are we predestined just to, I'm all over the map right now with what I'm trying to say, but I need to
get it.
But you want people to look in the mirror, but you don't want them to fall in love what they see. It's you look in the mirror and realize this is only you, and now how do we help somebody else?
Absolutely.
How do you work through that with people?
Absolutely. So, I would just want to answer that question. Are we predestined to sort of always just do this? I don't think so. I think they're two different things. I think there's the externalizing. There's all the things that we're doing as human beings, in the external world, like you say, like the ants, just building our little community, or building our level of success, or building our name, or building our home, or building our family, building whatever we're building, right? And that can get destroyed immediately. And we know this. We know that one thing can happen and everything can change. And so I think that's external kind of, thinking, where we're just focusing on who we are in the outside world and how we look to the world. Do I look successful? Do I look, happy? Do I look good? Do I look, whatever it might be? And then there's the internal world. And I think that a lot of us are not really paying time, or not giving time or paying attention to the inner part of us. And I think that's different, because in my experience, when we really, really heal the deep parts of ourselves and really work through knowing who we are, being more present, moment-centered, being more aware of other people, the impact of who we are on others, the impact of our choices on others, first and foremost our loved ones, but then the community at large, and then the world at large. When we really, really connect with that, then I think that what can happen is we become more altruistic. The reason why people aren't able to give to others necessarily, or give to the world in some way, is because they feel they haven't got enough themselves. And it's irrelevant how much they have, because if they feel a lack, if there's a lack inside of them, they are going to live in the world as if there's a lack, and therefore constantly trying to get more and have more and be more and do more. And that is what takes them away from really, really appreciating the moment, appreciating the impact, the influences that they have on others, the ripple effect. And that needs to change. Because often a lot of people who seemingly have a lot, you think, oh my God, you've got so much, you could do so much with what you have, with, whatever it is. And those people struggle because I think the ones who have a lot, the ones who are driven to have more and more and more, because there's a lack, there's a fundamental feeling of lack, and they feel they haven't got enough, no matter how much they have. And until you feel you've got enough, how can you give anything away? Whether it's your time, whether it's, education, whether it's, money, whether it's resources, whatever, whether it's love, whatever it is. So I do think there is a correlation. And I think the correlation is fear and love. It's how much love someone has in their heart. The person who has a lot of love in their heart will always feel secure and will always have time and energy and resources to give to another. And I would say those people who are in fear, the greatest amount of fear, they're the ones who are the most resistant to change. They're the ones who are most resistant to letting go of the old story, the old paradigm that this is what you need in order to be secure. And it's not true. It's not true we need a lot to be secure. I think we need love in our hearts. The more love we have in our hearts, the more we get from the world whatever it is that we need. But it's hard to get people to let go of their idea. It's like, but, I've often said to people, okay, you're not happy in this job. It's not serving you. Look at the destructive impact it's having on you. What can you do? They will never, ever accept that they might have to leave the job. Mm-hmm. But how can I? Where will I go? What will I do? But what do you love? Well, I'd love to do something else. Well, go and do that. But they won't let go because I think, but I need the money. And so we put a lot of emphasis on money as being security. And I think, we need to re-educate people that actually money is just energy like everything else. And, what we need to be cultivating is the energy from within us, not the energy outside of us.
So what is the biggest factor, or again, I'm probably rephrasing my initial question in a different way, but when you think of those that do start with, say, love, or don't gravitate toward fear, is there something that causes somebody to be more susceptible to fear? Is there a common denominator?
Yeah. So, well, two things. I think each person is individual, so I don't think one thing applies to everybody. But if I was to break it down to the most sort of common things that I can come back to, I would say that the thing that causes most people to be stuck in fear is story. They have tradition upon tradition upon tradition of stories that say this is the way to do it, and they're fearful of letting it go because it's become so deeply embedded. In order to be happy, you have to have X, Y, and Z. In order to be happy, you have to do X, Y, and Z. In order to be happy, there has to be this. And people who are resistant to letting go and actually shifting perspective are the ones who are going to be stuck in fear. Now, it can come from trauma, it can come from, traditional beliefs, it can come from cultural beliefs, it can come from, really not knowing themselves, not growing up in a way where they get to know who they really are. And I think that most people who have more love in their hearts, often it's because they've been through the journey of loss, or not having very much, or being disconnected from family, being disconnected from culture. Those people who literally have nothing to lose will go that extra mile to really, really go deep and find themselves and know who they really are. And that's when they discover the truth, that their love exists within, and it's not based on what you have in the world. It's based on who you really are at your core.
Yeah, I would say here in the United States, I was born in 1971. So, being born in that period of time, we often, like, the kind of mindset of a typical parent, maybe who was a parent at that time, was, I want my kids to have what I didn't have, that type of thing. And
yes.
then all of a sudden, our generation of parent, it's probably been exacerbated. Although my kids have things I didn't have, I'm still somewhat of a challenging parent in that, my wife and I require them to work for a lot, like mentally and physically, they've got to work for a lot. But I feel like that mindset of wanting someone to have what you didn't is actually doing more damage to people, because it's forfeiting or it's eliminating the opportunity for them to fall down or to screw up or to make a mistake or to fail or to whatever, and then they can't deal with it. Where they lose that ability to develop resilience. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. I really, really agree with you. I really feel like, and that's what I mean that, Dave, when we talk about the fact that, the truth has to cut through fear, that was a fear they had, but they didn't have it. They worked really hard. So they really wanted to give, what they didn't have. And that was appropriate, because what I feel like that generation of parents opened up was education, opportunity, and so, we would have grown up really feeling like these opportunities are amazing. What do I want to do with these opportunities? Now, if you apply that same kind of thinking to this generation, it's not going to work, because they have so many opportunities. So they need something different. They need to learn, different sets of skills and different ways of thinking and being involved. And I think when there's so much available, literally on your doorstep, you can literally sit in your home and have it delivered to your doorstep, then, you need to think, what is it that they really need? And I would say values, because that's what's really important. They need to grow up with values, really valuing work. It's not about how hard they work. It's about valuing that, you have to give, energy to something. You have to put in effort. You have to do something, It doesn't just all land on your doorstep just because your parents have made good.
Right. And that conversation is so important. Yet the in the environment we live in today, we have access to so much noise, which is why one of the reasons I call this cut through the noise, but so much noise and quick fixes and, whatever, is available to everyone, that they almost like the whole values conversation becomes, oh yeah. Because all it's this whole, you want to lose weight in 5 seconds, you can do this. You want hair on your head, we can put hair on your head. You want different teeth, we can give you different teeth. I mean, it just, anything you want. And
absolutely.
It's broken though. You know what I mean?
It's so broken. It's so broken, and we're becoming homogenized as a result, right? Because one of the things that happens is that you then end up wanting to look like everybody else.
Yeah.
Say, well, so the long hair's in, or the short hair's in, or this is, everything is like everybody just going, oh, but we lose our uniqueness. And that's what I mean about values. We need to come back to values, valuing who we are and what we have and working with what we have, rather than going, oh, there's a quick fix for everything. Because there really is. Externally, superficially, there's a quick fix for everything.
Right.
And I think there isn't a quick fix for really, really knowing ourselves. And there isn't a really quick fix for really, really finding our purpose, why we're here, finding meaning in our lives, finding our meaning in our lives. Our meaning doesn't have to be what our parents' meaning were. As you said, our parents, yes, they wanted to give us what they never had. That doesn't have to be our thing. Our thing can be something completely different. Their thing can be something completely different. And context is so important.
So talking to you, I'm sure is a challenge and relieving at the same time. I think once you help people get through their thing,
yes,
you can breathe. But early on, it's probably feel like they're on a roller coaster ride where this is harder than I expected it to be. But there's 7 billion people in this world who have infinite thoughts and opinions and experiences. Do you ever feel overwhelmed that, oh my goodness, this work will never be done? It will never be done. Do you ever get that thought?
I do. I really do. I mean, I think we've got a long, long, long way to go. And the hardest thing is, the overwhelm for me is, trying to get through the resistance, really trying to get through to the resistance. It's fine if people are willing to listen and then say, thanks, I'm not sure it's for me, or not right now, or whatever. But when you try and approach companies and to really help them to really, really do better with their employees, to really do better with, the leadership programs, and not just do the run-of-the-mill stuff. There's so much resistance because they're just waiting for someone else to run with it, and then they will kind of follow that lead. And it's like, well, somebody has to start, right? And so there's a real overwhelm because, I think that the more people that get behind the inner work that needs to be done, really, really, beyond sort of problem and solution, then the easier the job will become. But we haven't reached that critical mass yet. I think there are still that many people who are constantly looking for shortcuts, and we live in a world that is constantly giving shortcuts. As you said, there's a constant noise of how else can we just give people what they want immediately, but without any real effect, without any lasting changes.
Right.
And so that's a lot to deal with. But
it is, and when you were talking earlier about your clients, they come to you when they're ready, which probably means they have an awareness of you well in advance of approaching you. Like, I know I can't go to her until I get to this point. And I think about my business that way, specifically with coaching, not so much on the training side and not always on the speaking side. It can be a little lighter there, but on the coaching side, I learned a long time ago not to accept any clients until they come to me on their own and explain to me what it is that they want and why it is, what they're willing to do to work on it, and what they've done to contribute to it, and all those things, in order for us to have a real conversation.
Absolutely.
I'm not here, and I'm sure you feel the same way. We're not here to validate other people. It doesn't mean that we won't at some point say that's good.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, if you can't look in the mirror and say, hey, look, things aren't where I want them to be, and I know what I've done to contribute to this, and I want to work on it, there's really no opportunity for a coach or a psychologist of any kind of help, right? I mean, do you require your clients to go through some form of self-reflection before they can even engage with you?
Absolutely. I feel that you're spot on. I'd say it's similar with training as well, because there's superficial sort of training, and then there's really, really, like you say, months. It's not even enough. Yes, you can bring about changes, but there's so much that can be done, that needs to be done, and people need to acknowledge that this is important, it's valuable. And so the resistance that you meet, it would be great if people are more self-aware and recognize the importance of this work, because it has such a beautiful ripple effect, this work. But in terms of the coaching, mentoring side of things, I would definitely say that people need to have a certain level of awareness, but also that commitment and dedication. It's a waste of their money and my time. I'm sure it's same with you. If they just want to come for a few sessions for a quick fix, it's like, no, if you're going to do this, then let's do it properly. Right? Because otherwise you feel like you've been left like not being successful in what you're here to give. Not that your success is important in that way, but you want to feel like you're being of value. You want to feel like you're benefiting the people and not just taking their money or taking up your time.
I've had clients that I've coached since I started my company almost 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And but the things we talk about today are so different than the things we talked about back then. I could coach somebody who is brand new in their career.
Yes.
They might be a salesperson, and they don't even know how to initiate a phone call, or they're afraid to ask a question. And the coaching is it's really about helping them identify why that is and how to work through it.
Absolutely.
A year or two down the road, it might be coaching a successful salesperson to say, let go of their business in order to develop a new territory, or in order to get into management. You know what I mean? And then teaching managers, for example, how to deal with, say, their company being acquired. So the fears are all different, as time goes on, but the human being's still the same. So as a coach, I'm sure you feel this too. I've got to evolve as they evolve, or I'm out, so I've got to always be thinking what's in front of us now, for the coaching changes. Do you see the same in your world as well?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, there's something to be said for that ongoing relationship. It's so important. And I still do. And, obviously the amount of sessions that they have, the amount of time, definitely can lessen over time. But yeah, you are that rock. And like you say, we have to evolve as well. As the coaches, as the mentors, we have to evolve so they know that you've got them. Whatever they're facing, you're aware of it. You can help them through it. You're not just stuck on helping those people getting started as sales consultants, for example. You want that. You want to know that you're growing, but you also are there for them as they grow. And because you know them, you know their Achilles heels. You know where they're going to more likely fall down, where they're going to struggle. So it's really wonderful. But definitely I see people evolve over time, and I see they come to me with different things and different situations, and it's wonderful to have that relationship with them, because there's a trust that's been built, and they know they'll get through it and they'll come out stronger, because life is not linear. Life doesn't sort of, once you've worked something out, it doesn't keep getting better and better and better. It goes around in circles, and it goes up and down, and it goes all over the place. So we're always going through different things. And just because we've conquered one part of the world doesn't mean the next part of the world is conquered. It just means there's a whole other set of things that we have to grow and evolve with. And so, yeah, it's so important.
And even as a coach, we have to overcome our own fears, I think about my own journey and the work I've done, where I got used to coaching a certain type of person or a certain level of person. Yes. And then, oh my God, this person's a VP. I'm nervous. Or this person's a CEO. This person's CEO of $1 billion company versus
exactly.
So like getting over my own crap on how to work through this. So we all go through it. I want to give you the last word, Hema, on the ultimate message. What is it that you want people to hear or know as a result of this conversation?
So I love the title of your podcast, Cut Through the Noise, and truth does cut through fear. The noise is a fear. The noise, there's so much noise at the moment. There's so much noise. And I think that, if we're really going to have successful, prosperous lives and businesses and relationships, I think it starts with really, really being willing to know who we are and how we fit in, to the world that we're living in. We don't have to be like anybody else. We don't have to do what anybody else is doing. We don't need to think like anybody else. We don't need to think like everybody else, that's for sure. And the more we know ourselves, the more we are going to find our path to happiness, to success, to prosperity. And I think, getting the right person to support you on your journey is absolutely essential, because hopefully as coaches and mentors, we're not here to tell them, we're here to hold up a mirror of what might be going on and what they can do in order to evolve past it. And so I think that, we all need to evolve. We are all evolving, and we all need to evolve in order to really, really find that joy that exists within all of us.
Excellent. If somebody wants to reach you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So I am on LinkedIn and Instagram, but I also have a website. It's hemavyas.com. So that's the best way to reach me.
Excellent. Hema Vyas, thank you so much for being with me today. I enjoyed it.
Oh, such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You bet. We'll talk soon.
For sure. Take care.
You've been listening to Cut Through the Noise with Dave Toronto. Please subscribe, and for more information, check us out on Instagram at CTTN Podcast.